For the Ducks and Beavers, their big dance dreams die in LA. Oregon goes toe-to-toe with a pesky Colorado squad, but the Ducks misfire all night long against the Buffs. After winning two, the Beavers were one good half away from the Pac-12 title game, but OSU couldn't keep up the pace against Arizona. At the Galen Center, the Beaver women looked ready to make a run at the conference tournament, but never found a rhythm against the Cougs. And the Ducks season comes to an end at the hands of a hot shooting freshman. How many men's teams are going dancing and where? We'll wrap it all up on our season finale of Inside the Pac. It rolls right now.
Johnson, Lavender, Fogg. The defense of Tomlinson. Colorado is going to the NCAA tournament.
For the second straight season, the conference tournament title game comes down to one final possession. Hello and welcome to this edition of Inside the Pac. It's our season finale. I am Tom Ward. He is Nick Krupke. And Nick, an interesting year in Pac-12 hoops. The Ducks oh so close to not only that regular season crown, but also that in that loss to Colorado, if they had just had an average day shooting the ball, it's a game they probably win easily.
He had about 39%, and nobody got hot. Nobody had that hot hand, the go-to guy to feed to, and they've gone so far this year on that guard play with Sim and with DeVoe, who was just so huge for the 25-some-odd games they had him playing. Just to not get that maximum, I don't want to say effort, but just to have the ability that you've been showing in the past few games coming in. They were winning 4 in a row coming in.
Right, and they had been shooting the ball on a clip that was probably some of the best in the nation. I think the only game that they shot below 50% was that Colorado game in Boulder. Yeah. Other than that, they've been tearing it up. Conversely, Oregon State, when you look at them, I mean, here they were, a couple wins from that tournament title game. I mean, basically one bad half away from getting in there.
And this was a team that we saw all year. They came in, they had that dynamite non-conference season. It wasn't necessarily the toughest non-conference schedule we saw just a moment ago kind of hurt a lot of teams in the Pac-12. But for Oregon State to put away that 5-game losing streak they had, they ended up winning 4 in a row, make the run to the semis, the farthest they've ever been in the tournament since '88, where they, of course, lost to Arizona. So certainly some better things to come, better days ahead for Oregon State. But this year, I think not the largest step wasn't taken that they were expected to
No
get.
question, and a lot of teams, I think you could say that for in the Pac-12 this year. Yeah. And let's look at the Selection Sunday video verdict here, as last year 4 teams from the Pac-10 got in. This year Colorado was the first to hear its name called, gets an 11 seed, about right for that record though. They're in Albuquerque versus UNLV, the second Pac-12 team to get in, the Cal Golden Bears, and they will have to go to Dayton for the play-in game against South Florida on Wednesday. The winner plays 5th-seeded Temple in Nashville. And that leaves Washington, the regular season champion, left out at 21-10. The Ducks and Arizona obviously are left out. And I think really when you look at it, Colorado, who was the 6th seed, 6th place team in essence coming into this thing, played 4 games in 4 nights and won the tournament. I think overall it speaks to, not to knock the Pac-12, but it's basically what everyone's been saying all year long. It's a fairly weak deal this year.
Yeah, and the Huskies, they do, they're again the first team from a power conference to win the regular season crown, not to get in, but their RPI only 71. They had some bad non-conference losses. A lot of young guys there that never really quite got on board with the things to really kind of push them. They had the most talent in the league by far.
No question
about it.
For
Arizona, a lot of tight losses like they saw there on the other night in LA as well. And you look back at just a couple games for Oregon, if they could have gotten those games and maybe a win, probably would have taken more than one win at the conference tournament to get in anyway. But you look at just some of those games this year that just didn't necessarily have the best all-around performances but they got a lot closer than we certainly expected them to be.
Yeah, and the Pac-12 0-11 against the top 25 at one point during the season. And so that doesn't bode well. But then you look on the flip side, Oregon and Oregon State both had close losses to Vanderbilt, who ended up a number 5 seed in the tournament.
Yeah, and people in Seattle might be crying foul, going, well, how does Cal get in? We beat them. But there's no round robin this year either, so they didn't have to go back down to Haas Pavilion to prove that to Cal, with 3 more wins than the Huskies, 2 more than the Ducks. That's why they get in. But for a Pac-12 team that they're going that essentially
to be in the play-in game.
Yeah, time to last year we said, wow, only 4 teams get in. 2.
Yeah. How the mighty have fallen is what it comes down to. I mean, the Pac-12, certainly it's been talked about all year, and it came to fruition on Sunday. Well, after the Ducks lost to Colorado, the Colorado Buffaloes, they were a weak seed in the Pac-12 tournament and definitely not looking good. But after bouncing the Cougars, then knocking off the top-seeded Huskies, the Beaver men were into the semifinals. The last time the Beavers advanced that far in the conference tournament, that was 1988. A loss in the final to Arizona, and OSU and the Wildcats mixing it up in the semis. Zona won the only matchup this year in overtime. And Jared Cunningham, as we check things out, gets the steal, but Solomon Hill just bounces it off his foot. Three-point play for Jared. O-State up 25-23. Cunningham with 14. Another nice effort by Devon Collier. The block on one end. Runs the floor and then slam dunks the junk, closing the half on a 20-4 run. Make it 34-27 OSU at the break, 15 for Collier. But Arizona peeled off a 31-10 run in the first 10 minutes of the second half. Jesse Perry went 16 and 11, 47-37 U of A. Roberto Nelson tried leading them back. The deep three makes it 47-42. A team-high 19 for Nelson, and that's when Kyle Fogg became the beacon in the night. He had 22. They were 9 of 18 from downtown, and Arizona advanced to the title game for the second straight year, 72-61. Nelson pacing the Beavers with 19 and 32 minutes off the bench. One of his better games of the season. Cunningham with 14 as he was again named to the all-tournament team.
Collier 15 points, 8 rebounds, 2 blocks. Nice run, though, as the number 9 seed, the lowest slotted team to make it into the semis in conference history. The first appearance in the semifinals since last making it to the NIT for the Beavers in 2005. The season began with a lot of hope and aspirations of making the big dance, turned into too much inconsistency and near misses. Friday, we saw about the same thing in that second half. After looking so good for the first, the missed opportunities down low certainly came back to haunt them. Oregon State shot just 2 of 17 from the floor in that first 9 minutes of the second when Arizona stormed back into an 8-point lead. Turnovers were not a big issue against the Cougars in the win over the Huskies as well, but certainly some of those miscues hurt the Beavers down there in the second half while really fueling the Cats. So they end the season now 10th in the league in scoring. Maybe not the greatest defense we've seen from an Oregon State team lately. Certainly underwhelming conference run. 7-11 is again in a watered-down Pac-12. You look at those tight losses. The one that took a while to get over, the 4 OT loss to Stanford. The next game you play, you have the near miss in Tucson. How big that game might have been. Then you had that hangover loss at Arizona State right after that. But then again, you shake off that 5-game losing streak later in the year. You peel off a 4 in a row before losing to Arizona in the conference tournament. And for a lot of these guys are coming back, which it is essentially all of them, but Kevin McShane, hoping that Jared Cunningham doesn't jump to the NBA, and I don't think that he will. A lot of better days to come still for Oregon State. We've said that the last 3-4 years with Craig there, but it is
well, like you said, McShane's the only guy that's out of the mix next year, and certainly Craig Robinson called these guys underachievers all year long. To some extent, that was true, but then at towards the end of the year, I asked Craig in L.A., is this now looking like the team that you thought you had at the beginning of the year? And he said, certainly, yeah.
And this was the first year he had all of his own recruits, too, and he's got another class coming in next year, so we'll see what they cannot do. No
question. Well, the Ducks earned that number 3 seed in the Pac-12 tournament, but what good would it be if Oregon failed to capitalize in Game 1 in L.A. and Colorado? The first opponent up for Oregon, the Ducks just stampeded the Buffs the previous Thursday. Fighting Ducks came out with the uppercuts from long range. Garrett Sim has been on a tear. 13-6 Oregon. It was looking like the Ducks were going to roll. Carlos Emery been such a force off the bench during this 4-game win streak. 3-ball ties it at 20. Carlos with 11. Olu Ashalu, he didn't jump over anyone this time, but he did do this in the home of Blake Griffin, the slam dunk and the harm. Game tied at 27, 34-33 CU at the break as we take another look at that. Meanwhile, Tony Woods came back from the shoulder, injured the previous week, deep in the woods, and the throwdown. Oregon down 1, team high 14 for Tony. While the Ducks were struggling, Colorado extended the lead. What can Brown do for you? Well, he can hit from 3. Carlin Brown with the triple threat, 47-39 CU. Oregon, though, finally did pull it together. DeVoe Joseph finally hit in the second half. The long 2 make it 62-59. Ducks back on top. Final minute, though. The Ducks collapsing on Spencer Dinwiddie. The team block, but Andre Robertson cleans it up. Buffaloes take the lead 63-62. Now the Ducks settled for jumpers all night long. And here it is again down the stretch. DeVoe, 3 for the win, no go. Joseph 0 for 7 from beyond the arc as the Ducks indeed were one and done. 64-63. The Buffs take 2 of 3 from Oregon this season, leaving Oregon 22-9 overall. We talked about Carlos Emery a lot coming in. he was able to give the Ducks 11 points off the bench in 25 minutes.
Yeah, they had a 13-point advantage on the glass, 7 blocks, only 9 turnovers. Woods, though, your lead guy, not always good for that. 14 points, another 4 blocks for Tony to add to his single-season record total. Not that Oregon lived by the 3, but they certainly thrived on it this year, but only going 4 of 22 in that game with CU. DeVoe 0 of 7. You mentioned Tom from 3, Singler 1 of 6, Sim 2 of 6. And you look back just that week prior against the Buffs, and Oregon scored 90 points. They were 8 of 14 from downtown. 2 of them by Joseph. Sim, you'll recall, was 5 of 7. Emery got in on it too. And then back in that February loss, that 1-point defeat in Boulder, which you won't forget for a long time, 7 threes fell. DeVoe had 3 of them. Ducks finished 3rd in the league at 37% from the land of 3. Sim 2nd in the conference for shooting percentage from 3. Joseph 6th. Coming in, they had won 4 in a row, 11 of 14. It's kind of a shame for Oregon fans that they weren't quite able to play up to par when it really mattered the most. We talked so much coming into how important it is to have one of those top 4 seeds. You missed that first day, but then Colorado goes and shows it, and Oregon State for that matter too. You play on that first day, you kind of get the jitters out from playing in Staples Center, and you feel good.
Staples Center is a big arena. It's a little bit different shooting backdrop. Guys like DeVoe Joseph had not played there before because his first year playing at Staples Center. Talked about that leading up to the game. You know, and Oregon, the big 3, Garrett, EJ, DeVoe, combined 15 of 41. I mean, that's the ball game right there.
And Olu had done a lot of great things for him too, but he was only to get 6 points for them. I mean, he'd been such a force. Certainly just a disappointment. I think if they played that again, Colorado's not the greatest of teams. They've been on a nice little run here, but I think that Oregon, straight up, I know they lost 2 out of 3.
It is all about who gets hot.
By 2 points.
Certainly Colorado got hot.
2 losses.
Right, exactly. But yeah, I agree that, you know, when you look at the Pac-12 and you look at the Oregon-Colorado matchup, I mean, they play that thing, you know, 10 times, you know, neutral court, back and forth. I mean, Oregon's probably going to win 6 or 7 of them, maybe 6, because they're pretty even matchup. But definitely Colorado got hot at the right time, and now they won their way into the tournament, no question. Well, Oregon's hopes at an NCAA tournament berth were denied by Colorado in Los Angeles in a game where the Ducks played far from their best. Still to come on ITP for the 2nd time in the season. The Buffs got some fortunate bounces down the stretch to down the Ducks.
You know, we fought back in it and tied it up. And then, you know, they had an offensive board at the end and put it back. So it was just tough loss.
Plus, the Oregon State women were trying to play their way into the postseason against the Cougars at the Pac-12 tournament. And as always, lots more Beavers, Ducks, and the rest of the Pac-12 online all the time at our website, InsideThePac.com. We are back after this. Game win streak and 78th straight in conference. Coming off back-to-back losses at the Mountain Schools to close the regular season, the Beaver women look to get back on the winning track at the Pac-12 tournament. Scott Rueck, the media selection for Conference Coach of the Year, and Erlicia Marchbanks trying to keep her last year at Oregon State going, but Brandy Thomas set the tone. She buried jumpers from everywhere early on. Cougs led 17-2, but the Beavs battled back. Patricia Bright hooks in 2 of her 10. OSU down just 5 at the break. Second half, Allie Gibson, nice baseline drive and reverses it home. 3 of her game high 19 and the foul. OSU got it as close as 1, but Thomas put it away. She had 17, 65-56 the final. The Cougs went on to upset USC before losing to Cal in the semis.
Entering the game, we mentioned Rueck. He was named the Coach of the Year by the media. Marchbanks, a member of the All-Conference First Team. Bright, All-Defensive. And Gibson named to the All-Freshman Team.
Tonight was, you know, an unfortunate ending, but it was a great season. Credit Washington State tonight for coming out like they did.
To have another game would be amazing to dream, and so, I don't know, it's just bittersweet, I guess you would say.
At 18-12, the Beavers now wait to see if they're selected for the WNIT. The Duck women limped into Southern California by dropping 4 of their previous 5 games. At the Galen Center on day 1 of the tournament, Oregon tipped off the Women's Classic against Washington, the team they split with during the regular season. And it was the Jasmine Davis show in the first half. First, she hits a 3, 17-8 Huskies. Moments later, Davis again makes it 20-10 Dogs. Amanda Johnson, though, answers the triple on the kickback, cuts the Washington lead to 7. But back comes Davis. She was 7 of 9 from downtown in the first half, 23 points off the bench as the Huskies pulled away, ending Oregon's season 15-16, 72-56 the final. Oregon finishes the year 1 game under 500. In her final game as a Duck, Johnson scored 10 and was named all Pac-12 first-team player.
Jazzy had 17. Nia Jackson, though, still wasn't herself, fighting back from that viral infection. Just 1 of 8 from the floor in 16 minutes. UW then moved on to get thumped by Stanford the next day.
Still to come on Inside the Pack. It was certainly no classic version of the Pac-12 men's tournament, and a war of attrition between the Cats and Buffs came down to the final minute. Inside the Pack will be back.
It's cracked up to be as Colorado gets by Utah, the Ducks, Cal, and then Arizona.
The Oregon men left an NCAA tournament bid sitting on the court in LA and was right there for the taking against Colorado. But Oregon's big three of E.J. Singler, DeVoe Joseph, and Garrett Sim combined to go 15 of 41 from the field, adding up to a 1-point win for the Buffs.
We had 2 close games with them before, and you know, we were a little flat, and you know, we'd been scoring points, and it looked like, you know, each and every one of our guys had confidence in their offensive ability, and because of that, we took some bad shots. You know, we got going, and everybody wanted to win the game on the offensive end.
You know, we fought back in it and tied it up, and then you know, they had an offensive board at the end and put it back, so it was just tough loss.
No, I was just taking bad shots, and my head wasn't in the game, and I just didn't play the way I needed to tonight. Man, it's just a horrible play on my part. You know, I should have got a better shot than that, and you know, I settled. And I should have took it to Adam and been more aggressive, but I didn't.
Well, the old saying is ban the bomb. It's deadly during crunch time. You got to go to the rack. As we look at the NCAA tournament, just 2 teams get in. You got Colorado, an 11 seed, and then you got Cal in the play-in game. I mean, how much is expected out of these 2 teams?
All you've heard the last couple of weeks on ESPN or anybody during all the tournament games you saw was, oh, the Pac-12 is so terrible, it's so down. But I think the perspective was already set in stone 2 months ago. We saw the basketball certainly get better the last month of the season. I'd love for California and Colorado too to win a game or 2 and go, yeah, okay, we actually do play some basketball. But certainly things got to change in the conference.
UNLV,
season.
no slouch, playing in Albuquerque, so short trip for them. Cal, with the deck kind of stacked against it, got a trip on Wednesday and then down to Nashville on Friday. The Beaver men posted a high water mark for wins, 19 this season. That's the most since Gary Payton was roaming the court in Corvallis. Still to come on ITP. More with Craig Robinson and company as they could not sustain the effort against the Arizona Wildcats.
It was a very physical game, but that's how semifinals of big-time tournaments are. So we were trying to match their physicality and came up a bit short.
The OSU men finished the regular season in the Pac-12 tournament with 19 wins. That's the most in 22 years, and the Beavers won 2 conference tournament games for the first time in 24 years. Plenty of which to be proud for Craig Robinson and company.
It was a very physical game, but that's how semifinals of big-time tournaments are. So we were trying to match their physicality and came up a bit short.
But a lot of guys were definitely had their heads down. We played really hard, and we put our all in every game and every play that we had out there. And I mean, we wanted to play tomorrow, and I mean, we kind of let it get ahead of ourselves, and we came out the first half and we played well. I mean, Arizona went on a good run, and it was tough to kind of come back and try to do the same thing to them.
We always stick together. We've been a family for a long time, and we matured during the season. And I've seen it, and the coach has seen it, and we just been playing as a family, played through games, and we haven't gave up yet, and we're going to bring it to next season.
Plenty of proud former Beavers in LA this week. Gary Payton, AC Green, Brent Berry rooting for the Beavs. The glove has been around quite a bit this season, and despite missing out on the NCAA tournament, GP believes the program's still on track.
Well, I mean, it's going in the right direction. You know, see if guys see this and want to come here and recruit, I think Coach Robinson is doing a great job of that. A lot of recruits will want to come here and do that, and then it'll be a better thing. You know what I'm saying? You get more athletes this way. When you make runs like this at the tournament, it's just great for that. So, you know, it's good to have that. So it's good.
All right, well, that wraps up our season-long coverage of the Pac-12, as it has been another fun, entertaining year here on Inside the Pac, and we'll see you in August for our preseason football show, as football season now less than 6 months away, if you can believe it. For Nick Krupke, I'm Tom Ward. Thanks for watching all season long. We'll see you.